Next thing to mount is our tank component. This has an elongated bolt because of the aluminum piece. I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on this because we, again, don't want it to vibrate out. We're done there. We'll take our Motion Pro T-handle, and the bolt faces the tank. You won't be able to install it the other way around. So go ahead, set that in. Be very careful when you start the bolt to make sure that it threads and it doesn't cross thread. Once you can feel it take, go ahead, tighten it up. When you tighten up the tank mount component for the steering damper, use the torque spec in the manual for that particular bolt, and that should be just fine. Lastly, we have our GPR steering damper itself to mount. There are 2 Allen bolts through the side of the body, so I'll reverse it and you can see it. And then also we have this arm that comes out. Now the arm will fit into the tank component. So the first thing for you to do, make sure your bolts are in place. Go ahead, lay it in position. Now, if the arm won't go in, that's fine. Pull it back off. Go ahead and loosen our bolt here, just a little bit, and try again. There, fitting perfectly. Now what's very important is that the bolts line up. There are 2 schools of thought here. Personally, I never blue Loctite these bolts because the steering damper comes on and off quite a bit. If you want to go ahead and blue Loctite those, please do so. Now, let's go ahead and locate the bolts. You may, as we have here, because we're not quite perfectly straight, have to find the bolt holes. That's fine, don't worry about it. So again, just check until you get it seated correctly. Okay, when you feel them snug up, 1/8 of a turn is plenty. Now that that's done, the last thing to do is tighten the arm in here because the steering damper is anchored to this pin. So on our last bolt, we'll go ahead and tighten this. Same thing, make sure it's snug, 1/8 of a turn, and your steering damper is installed. Now that our damper is installed, we want to know how to use it. GPR engraves numbers into the steering damper from 0 all the way through to number 20. Now on the street, because you need to be making the bike move quickly, and you're physically turning the bike with your hands as well, you should probably run around on number 2. At the track, I will never go stiffer than number 5 with this kind of damper. That's as far as I need to go. If you do too tight a setting, when you come off the track and try to go into the pits, the bike won't turn because it's so rigid. So you can run into problems with that. So use a setting that's comfortable. 2 for the street, 4 or 5 for the track. Now, the other important part is that when you fit a piece of equipment like this, if you're going to change your air filter, you're going to do anything like that at all, you're going to work on the tank, you have to remove both the steering damper and the tank mount component. If that's the case, always, always, always loosen first the clamp bolt, because then that will allow you to take the steering damper out. There's nothing worse than pulling these 2 bolts out and it's trapped here. So always remember, if you're going to remove the damper, release the clamp bolt first, take the damper off, and then you can pull the tank mount off. Hopefully that was very helpful to you. Very simple step-by-step process in installing the steering damper. And as always, we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Falling and falling like birds from space. I can't